After a disappointing few years, the Rams were finally relegated to Division 3 North in 1955, but swiftly promoted in 1957. Through the 60s, Derby floated around Division 2, but luck would soon change as Derby broke their transfer record of 40,000 for Kevin Hector in 1966. It would prove to be one of Derby's greatest deals, alongside the appointments of legends Brian Clough and Peter Taylor. In the first season back in Division 1, Clough ministered the Rams to a 4th place finish. 1972, Derby would not lose a league game until October, which had led them to the top of the division. After a tense title race, Derby were the champions of England after being 3-time runners-up, and they had qualified for European football for the first time. The first leg drew Derby to Portuguese giants Benfica, with the legendary Eusebio amongst their ranks. But Derby's greats, Roy McFarlane, Kevin Hector, sent the baseball ground delirious in a 3-0 win. Next on the list were Czechoslovakian champions, in which a Kevin Hector double in the home tie was enough to see the Rams through. This meant Derby were only one game away from a European Cup final. Italian giants Juventus were the next club in Derby's way. The first leg in Italy was won 3-1 by Juventus after a controversial game, but the task proved too great for Derby. European dreams were over, but the club can be proud of what was achieved in their first European adventure. After a fallout with the board, Brian Clough and Peter Taylor resigned, and Derby icon Dave Mackay replaced the pair and steered Derby to a 3rd place finish, meaning they were once again in the UEFA Cup. But it wasn't very memorable, as the Rams went as far as the 3rd round. But the highlight from the 1974 season was the Rams clinched their 2nd Division 1 trophy, the 2nd in 3 years after going unbeaten in their last 9 games. The European adventure started with a victory over Slovan Bratislava, which meant that the next tie was against European greats Real Madrid. The first leg was at the baseball ground, and 10 minutes in, new signing Charlie George fired in the first goal. By half-time, the Rams had gotten themselves 3-1 up. With 12 minutes left, George sealed his hat-trick and won the game 4-1 over the Spanish giants. However, shall we say the away leg was rather disappointing, as Real Madrid showed their class, which meant they had beaten Derby in extra time. Domestically, Derby finished 4th and semi-finalists of the FA Cup. Twice champions and European Cup semi-finalists, it had been a glorious decade for the Rams. The following decade was nowhere near as successful, dropping down to the 3rd tier, but Arthur Cox steadied the ship and guided the Rams to the top flight football once again. English stars like Peter Shilton and Mark Wright arrived alongside Dean Saunders for a whopping £1 million. But soon enough, Derby dropped to the 2nd division once again in 1991. In the summer of 1995, the bold eagle, Jim Smith, arrived and Derby went on to be promoted to the Premiership. It was also historic for another reason, as it was announced as Derby would leave the baseball ground and into the new stadium, Pride Park, embarking on a new era of the club. After relegation from the top flight after 6 years and spending 5 years in the Championship, the Rams were again promoted under Billy Davies after beating West Brom in the playoff final. But it wasn't a long stay in the Premier League, as the Rams broke the record for the lowest number of points in a Premier League season. This swiftly saw Derby relegated to the Championship once again.